Hi there, this is Lizzie with Lizzie's Dressing Table, and welcome to my next video where we are going to be reviewing Mother's Day perfumes. And I am going to be showing you and sharing with you all of the perfumes that my mother and my grandmother and the various women in my life who have really served as mother role models to me, the women who inspired me. They not only inspired me in what they did, what they said, the way that they interacted with me as a younger child and as an adult, but the perfumes that they wear, because a sure way for me to remember them and to honor them is to wear the perfumes that they wore or that they wear. So if this interests you, please stay tuned. And if you like my content, please give me a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And without further ado, let's get into this. So the first perfume that I want to share is Timeless. So Timeless is my mother's signature scent. And I should say it was her signature scent. My mother has been gone since 1998. She passed away from lung cancer, and it had such an impact on my life. It really changed everything that I did as a young adult. I lost her when I was pretty much almost 24. In fact, I think I had turned 25 years old when she passed away. And the loss of your mother is something you're never prepared for. And I love her dearly. And I also love this perfume, Avon's Timeless. It just personifies my mother in memory. And it is a citrusy chypre scent. The scent was introduced in 1974. So actually that would have been 2 years after I was born. So it's considered an oriental floral. And yeah, it's got floral notes and green notes. It's got jasmine and patchouli and vetiver. And the base is musk, amber, and oak moss. And I really like the scent. I don't wear it all that much. And this is the repackaged bottle. It came in a much more dimensional bottle back in the 70s and the 80s. But this just reminds me so much of her. She just, for me, was my best friend. She taught me manners. She taught me empathy. She taught me to treat people with respect. She taught me to be strong. She taught me to never stop going for what she wanted to go for. And she didn't always believe in my career choice of going into writing, but she just was someone who was a role model for me. And I love her to this day, of course, and I never forget her. And this just reminds me so much of my mother. So yeah, a lovely scent. And the next perfume that I would like to showcase, profile, tell you about is an oldie but a goodie. This is Evyan's White Shoulders. And this was a perfume that came out in 1945. And actually, there are conflicting dates. I have read it was either 1943 or 1945, but I will go with 1945. This would have been the year before my mother was born. And in addition to some of the other scents that my grandmother wore, she expressed a real admiration for White Shoulders. Now, this is a perfume I just took delivery on. I literally ordered this from Amazon maybe 4 days ago, and I thought, if I'm going to do a video about Mother's Day, I need to have this perfume on my table to share with you. And this is a perfume that not only my grandmother wore, but my husband's mother wore. Her name was Gilda, and I met Gilda only once, but she was a heck of a character. Something that just made me laugh about her is that one of her funny lines was, "Stay sexy." So, yeah, Gilda, we're continuing to stay sexy. But this is a really beautiful perfume. I haven't smelled this in forever. Are you familiar with White Shoulders? It's really very much a vintage scent. And so to share with you the notes of White Shoulders, and it's very sweet. I was quite surprised that something that was created in the mid 1940s really was pretty reminiscent of what companies produced in the 1980s. It's very sweet, and boy, it's hard to get the cap off. But it's just a very much a white floral composition, and it comes off a little bit hairspray in the beginning, but it's got a very prominent note of African orange flower. It's got green notes. It's got peach and bergamot. It's got gardenia, lilac, tuberose, jasmine, lily of the valley, iris, and spices. And the base is civetta, oak moss, musk, benzoin, sandalwood, and amber. So yeah, you can really, really smell the whole cast of characters when it comes to white florals. It's a beautiful scent, and I remember smelling this as a child and thinking, this is an absolutely beautiful perfume, and it still is. I was surprised, and this is $15. So for a historical perfume, it's not expensive. And what I thought was really interesting about the company Evyan, and it's spelled Evyan, so it's not to be confused with Evyan, the water company. So telling you a little bit about Evyan Perfumes Incorporated, it's an American fragrance house that was founded in the late 1930s to the 1940s by an Austrian-born chemist. His name was Baron von Langer von Langendorf, and his wife Evelyn Diane Westphal. It was established in New York City, and it was considered an American alternative to the luxury French brands. And I looked up some of their other perfumes, and these perfumes, I've never heard of them, but they had the perfume Most Precious in 1951, another perfume called Great Lady in 1957, Golden Shadows in 1950, and now this was the one that just made me laugh, Enchanting Menace. Now, does that not sound like something that Ita Libra d'Orange would produce? But that for Evyan was a perfume that was released in 1958. They also had the Baron in 1961, which, according to my research, is really pretty much the last perfume that they produced. But there was also the male version of Menace that was produced in 1943. So that could very well be their first perfume. So would you wear something called Menace or Enchanting Menace? Have you heard of Evyan? Have you heard of White Shoulders? Have you heard of Menace or Enchanting Menace? Would you want to be an Enchanting Menace? I don't know. Okay, but to tell you a little bit about my grandmother, and thank you for allowing me to go off on these little anecdotal stories, but my grandmother was really a part-time parent for me. In the summers, my sister and I would be out of school and my mom would be working. So for part of the summer, we would go live with my grandmother and my grandfather. And I loved my grandmother as much as my mother, but they were two different people. My grandmother was a big pushover, but she really, living with my grandparents during the summer was really sort of magical, and it was so much fun because they lived on a small lake, and so we would fish, we would walk the neighborhood. My grandmother was a big reader, so she really instilled in me the love of books, and I would eventually go on to become an English major. I think probably in part because of the love of reading that my grandmother passed on to me, as well as a love of sewing. My grandmother was a great sewer. She made a lot of clothing for me as a child, and she never really taught me how to use a sewing machine, but I did teach myself. So that is a hobby that I acquired about 5 years ago in addition to perfumery. So thanks, Grandma. I love you. And to another perfume that I wanted to quickly show, something that my grandmother had on her dressing table was Coty Emeraude. And, you know, I always thought that my grandmother was huge into Chantilly, and she was. I mean, she always had Chantilly on her dressing table, but she also had Emeraude. And I recently purchased a even smaller bottle for a video that I did about the perfumes featured in Victoria magazine. This is a wonderful perfume. And this actually dates back to 1921. So this is a big historical perfume and is absolutely beautiful. The travel size that I bought does not last as long as this dinky little specimen that I have. But yeah, another lovely scent that my grandmother wore. Okay, and so now I am going to move on to my aunts, who I loved both very much, and both of them are alive, but I'm not going to exclude anyone, but I must pay homage to my absolutely beloved Aunt Bonnie. Wears Obsession, among other perfumes, and she is hands down my absolute favorite aunt. She's the sister of my dad. My dad passed away in 2011, but my Aunt Bonnie is still alive and well, and I adore this woman. I would crawl across the state for her, and she's just a silly person, and she's a different sort of mother to me. She's was really sort of the opposite of my mother. My mother was very, I think, straight-laced and very prim and proper and respectful and just really followed the rules. But my Aunt Bonnie is just a free spirit, and I have so many wonderful memories of her as a child, and I love the fact that she's, of course, still alive. I can see her on the holidays, and when I smell Calvin Klein's Obsession, I think of my Aunt Bonnie. So Calvin Klein's Obsession was created in 1985, so a true 1980s classic, which I love. For me, the perfumes of the 1980s are my vintage loves. And this is a beautiful amber spicy scent. It's got vanilla, it's got basil, bergamot, mandarin orange, green notes, peach, lemon, spices, sandalwood, coriander, oak moss, cedar, orange blossom, jasmine, rose, amber, incense, vanilla, civet, musk, and vetiver. And as one of my fellow perfume content creators remarked recently, and I'm sorry I can't remember who said it, it could have been Alicia's Budget Beauty, and her channel is great. But you know, the perfumes of the 1980s are not the stripped down compositions that we see today, where there are maybe 3 notes at the top, 3 notes at the heart, and 3 notes in the base. There was a whole kitchen sink of scents and aromatics and flowers in the 1980s, and you know, they're stink bombs, but stink in the most beautiful way. And this is different from your big white florals of the 1980s. It's just a beautiful amber spicy scent. I do love it. I have to admit that I love the men's version of the Obsession even more. But yeah, I will always have a bottle of this on hand because this reminds me of my Aunt Bonnie. All right, and so moving on to my mother's side, my Auntie Rose. I always remember her wearing Youth Dew, and Auntie Rose, I haven't seen her in a long time. And Youth Dew is not a particularly favorite scent of mine, but I did find this in an antique store last year in the fall, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get this. It was, I think like around 15, 16, 17, maybe even $18. And I did spray it because I thought, you know what, I want to see what it smells like because I haven't smelled it in a very long time. And there was a really beautiful floral top note that it had. And I thought, you know what? I love the bottle. The bottle is just so quintessential, vintage with this teal color that if nothing else, this would be a wonderful beauty prop that I can put in my bathroom, which I know that's a no-no, but not a favorite scent of mine, but it's certainly a very interesting perfume. It was created in 1956 by the perfumer Josephine Catapano, and I am sorry, I misspoke. This was created and released in 1953. This was something that started off as a bath oil, and the notes in it include spices, aldehydes, narcissus, lavender, Coca-Cola, which is interesting, orange, peach, and bergamot. The middle notes are spicy notes, cloves, cinnamon, rose, jasmine, ylang ylang, lily of the valley, cassia, and orchid. And the base, and it's got a lot of stuff in the base. It's got incense, tolu balsam, oak moss, Peru balsam, patchouli, amber, vetiver, vanilla, and musk. So it's a Chypre. It's powdery. It's spicy. Not wild about it, but I do love this bottle, and it certainly does not detract from the wonderful memories that I have of my Auntie Rose. She was a very caring person. She would join us for holidays, and just someone who would be there for you in times of sickness. If you needed someone to call, if you needed care, she would be there. And I have great memories of her. So, Auntie Rose, I hope you're doing well, and happy Mother's Day. And now I am going to move on to the friends. Either they were my mother's friends or my friends, or they just inspired me as wonderful, wonderful women. And so this one, and I'm going to change hands here. This is Coty's Vanilla Fields, and this is a perfume that my friend Sandy wears. Sandy was originally a friend of my mother's, and Sandy was really there for my mom after my mom and my dad divorced back in the 80s. I was a child of divorced parents, and this is just really a beautiful, beautiful perfume. It's a lovely vanilla scent, and it's more of a vanilla that I like to wear in the warmer months. It's got sort of a suntan lotion sort of vibe. It's really beautiful, and it was released actually in the 90s, and it's got top notes of coconut, peach, and bergamot. The middle notes are jasmine, geranium, and lily of the valley. And the base is vanilla, tonka bean, amber, sandalwood, musk, Virginia cedar, and patchouli. And my friend Sandy, and I haven't been in touch with her in a long time, but she was like another mother to me. She just was someone who was a very creative person. She was someone who I was able to, even as a young person in her 20s and her 30s, I could join Sandy on museum trips, and we would go to concerts together. We would go to the movies together, you know, if we wanted to see an independent, more artsy film. And I remember back in the early 1990s going to see, if you were alive back then, seeing the movie My Left Foot with Sandy. And that was a movie I think that really put Daniel Day-Lewis on the map, and he was just such a heartthrob and was a great actor back then and is a great actor now, of course. But I remember there was a scene in the movie that was just really, really touching, and it just brought me to tears. And I remember Sandy looking over at me, and to me, she had this look on her face like she saw me, she saw that I was an empathetic person and that she really appreciated that in me. And so Sandy is just a great person, and I can remember her wearing this perfume. And now I am going to showcase another wonderful 1980s perfume. So this is Bijan by Bijan. So this is just a wonderful scent. This is a scent that my friend Ellie wears, and Ellie is the first woman that I met when I started at a newspaper, and it was really a smaller daily newspaper that I wrote at back when I was a reporter. And actually it's also a perfume that I wore in addition to Ellie wearing it. And it's just a really great honeyish floral. But this is something that was released in the 1980s. And I'll make sure that I'm absolutely right about the date that this was released. But this was something that was created by a gentleman named Peter Bohm, B-O-H-M. And this has ylang ylang, orange blossom, narcissus, neroli, bergamot, basil, honey, tuberose, carnation, jasmine, Bulgarian rose, orris root, muguet, which is also known as lily of the valley, benzoin, sandalwood, amber, musk, tonka bean, vanilla, oak moss, heliotrope, cedar, and patchouli. So yeah, this is another, just you name it, note, perfume. It's really pretty. And I remember, and I still have some of the ads from the 1980s for Bijan. It featured the gentleman who founded Bijan, his wife Tracy, and his little daughter at the time, Alexandra. But yeah, it's a great perfume and one that I'm really glad I still have. Okay, so the next perfume, and this is a small bottle. This is Estee Lauder's Pleasures. This is a perfume that my first boyfriend's mother wore, and her name was Gilda. And so I've got like 2 Gildas in my history. But this was, and in fact, I think it was released in 1995. And when I smelled it for the first time, it just was very springy. And it reminded me of like Easter. It was like a perfume that you would wear at Easter time. And now the bottle that I have right now, I don't know how old this is. And quite honestly, I cannot remember how I acquired this bottle, but it's still very, very nice. And so Estee Lauder Pleasures was created by the perfumers Annie Byzantian and Alberto Marias. It's got top notes of green notes, freesia, pink pepper, violet, violet leaf, tuberose and red berries, The middle notes are Lily of the Valley, Peony, Lilac, Lily, Jasmine, Rose, Geranium, and Caro Caronde. And I am going to define that because I have no idea what Caro Caronde means. And the base notes are musk, cedar, sandalwood, and patchouli. But I'm going to look up what that Caro note is. Yeah, I can smell the green notes in this. This has not really gone off. I remember wearing Pleasures Intense. I just have a real fondness for really sweet perfumes. And this is a little bit more green. It's a beautiful perfume. So yeah, my first boyfriend's mother wore this, and she was just a fun person, very generous. She was a wonderful cook and a kind person. And I remember she had this phrase that she always said, "I am here to tell you." But yeah, I, of course, have lost touch with Gilda, but I still really love this perfume, and this really reminds me of her. Now, moving on to, and maybe this is too much information, my first husband's mother wore Dior's J'Adore, and this is actually the original bottle. I purchased this back in the early 2000s, and I think this was released in 2003, and it still smells so beautiful. It's created by the great perfumer Khalees Becker, and her name was Liz too, my first husband's mother, and it's just really beautiful. This is the original J'Adore before there were 10,000 flankers of it. It was actually launched in 1999, and the top notes are pear, melon, magnolia, peach, mandarin orange, and bergamot. The middle notes are jasmine, lily of the valley, tuberose, freesia, rose, orchid, violet, and plum. And the base notes are musk, vanilla, cedar, and blackberry. And it's a perfume that won the Fifi Award for the Best National Advertising Campaign in 2007, and that could be with the actor Charlize Theron. But I love this perfume. This is a scent that is wonderful in the summer. It's just like a beautiful, peachy, mango, fruity, mellow, gorgeous, indulgent, sensual summer perfume. I love it. I'm not real familiar with all of the flankers that have come out because I like the OG. And as you can see, I have used a lot of this, and it's beautiful. And the first Liz just was a really wonderful person, and she was someone who just traveled all over the world, and she instilled in me the travel bug, and she had sophisticated taste, and so she had a wonderful condo in North Miami Beach, and I would visit her in February, March, and she was just a fun, funny, silly person, and she passed away in 2018, and a great lady, so I enjoy having her perfume. And so now to round off, and this is the final Mother's Day perfume, and this is actually a perfume that I wear. Now, I don't have children, but I am the mother to various fur children, and I have been over the years. This is Lancome's Miracle, and this is actually a small bottle that I recently purchased at an antique store for $5. I do have a bigger bottle of Miracle, which I purchased. That would be, back in the early 2000s. Miracle came out in 2000, and the scent has lychee, freesia, magnolia, jasmine, ginger, pepper, amber, and musk. This was actually created by the perfumers Harry Fremont, Alberto Marias, and Christian Dussolier. So yeah, it's a lovely, fruity, it's got a very distinctive scent to it. And this is a perfume that I wore at my wedding. Miracle is just, it's beautiful. And I, just so you know, I am the fur mother of Abigail the cat, Mr. Tiki, the Siamese cat, and the latest edition, Miss Samantha Moore, also known as S'more. I love this. It's beautiful. It's cheerful. It's got a vibe to it. So that concludes the video for my Mother's Day perfumes. And what perfume does your mother wear? Does she wear multiple scents? What perfumes do you enjoy wearing that your female ancestors wore? Mothers truly are, to me, the glue that hold the society together. And they're a force, and a wonderful force. And I am so fortunate in that I have so many wonderful female figures who have been in my life and who have brought nothing but love and support and good qualities. They're the best part of my life. So please share with me what your mom wears, what she used to wear, what your grandmother wore. What do you plan on doing this Mother's Day to remember your mom or to celebrate her? I don't think we need to have a special day to celebrate moms. I think we should celebrate them and love them every day of the year. So with that, I appreciate you watching my video. To me, this was a very meaningful video to create, and I appreciate you spending time with me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Press the little bell so you get a notification whenever I upload a video, which is usually once a week. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day. I hope you have a great Mother's Day. And with that, I will see you later. Bye.